Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Nonprofit Diaries, where we share the stories that don't make the newsletter. I'm your host, Kimberly Bottom, and this week's guest is so passionate about supporting nonprofit professionals that he trademarked the phrase nonprofiteer, which is how you describe someone who believes the people are just as important as the mission. I love that. He has faithfully dedicated a quarter century to nonprofit work, leading a range of initiatives from community to programs to advancement. He is a wordsmith with several publications already available, more coming soon. I just love his LinkedIn content because it mixes that thought leadership and lived experience with humor and lightheartedness, something we all need nowadays. And he is also a co-host of another podcast called Good Nonsense, which, much like the Nonprofit Diaries, brings an honest take to life in the social sector. So loyal listeners, please welcome the nonprofiteer godfather himself, Evan Wildstein. Evan!
Well, hello. Wow, that was
Hello.
too much, but also perfect.
I feel like it's just enough. There's actually stuff I left out, like you're a dad and you're a, what you call recovering rock star. I feel like you're
hmm
always going to be a rock. I love also a musician myself, but probably not to the level that you are, but love that. Yes. We should start a band. Okay. Nonprofiteers, the band. It's like the Lumineers, but the nonprofit version.
hmm
Okay.
Instead of all their songs that have, aren't they the ones that do all their songs are like one female name, like Gloria and
I never knew that.
Cleopatra, right?
Really?
We could just do, we could do that, but like it's just the name of bad former bosses.
That tracks with the typical content that we're getting here on the Nonprofit Diaries. So yeah, we can absolutely go down that road. Okay, more to come on that, guys. Setting the stage for your diary entry. None of us are going to argue that nonprofit work is hard, even though it's rewarding and wonderful in ways that no other profession can be, right? We keep hearing about this burnout and this turnover, but you have had an almost 25-year career in nonprofits. I mean, first of all, what's your secret?
Uh, Maybe at the end of the career, that will make sense. I think when I'm a little bit more than midway through my career, so when I'm at the end of it, maybe I'll have a prescription for it. But
Huh?
I generally find that the thing that keeps me here, and this is interesting to say, because about a week ago I was chatting with a couple colleagues north of the border up in Canada, the YMCA Workwell people. They are Dave and Kate. They're amazing, and they do kind of the same type of work yet research that I get to do down here up in Canada. And at the beginning of that chat, one of them said to me, "I didn't realize until looking at your LinkedIn that you actually work in nonprofits still to this day."
Yeah.
I think that there is this conception or misconception, if you are one of the three people who follow my stuff online,
Oh,
that
stop
I
it.
that I consult or I vend or I coach or anything like that. But except for one very small detour at the earlier part of my career, the joke I like to make is that C3s have provided my W2s. And for your non-US listeners, that is a tax joke about the fact that actual nonprofits, have paid my paycheck for just about a quarter century.
To your point, when we met, because we met through mutual connections of the Nonprofit Hive. I feel like I'm dropping their name every time I have a person on the podcast because they're just such a great conduit of community. But I did assume that you were a coach, a consultant, something like that, because your content is so, it's just heartwarming. Like it really is something where you'll just drop something that says, hey, you're changing the world. Somebody probably didn't tell you that today. Let me be the one. You're really just doing the work and understanding how hard it is. And knowing that people need to feel seen and prioritized and loved on, which I 100% agree with. And I know in your own personal journey, you had mentioned to me that there was a moment for you when there had been past experiences that maybe made you consider leaving, and this moment made you want to stay. And I love that flip of the narrative. So give us a little insight on that experience for you.
So I work for a really fabulous, I want to say small, but we're not that small, Montessori school here in Houston. It's the oldest of its kind in the American Southwest. For those not familiar with Montessori, at our school in particular, we have students as young as 14 months. We go all the way up through high school. Um, at the time when I began this job, my wife and my own son was very young and in schooling of his own. And it was, I think, the second or third day on the job. And our kiddo got hand, foot, and mouth. And
Oh,
if there are non-parents listening or parents of kids who haven't yet gotten hand, foot, and mouth, It's pretty gnarly and it's kind of all consuming,
Yeah.
both for the parents and the kid. And so, again, like day 2 or 3, I had to call my boss and say, I know I just started, but kiddo is sick. And I just sort of paused just to see what the reaction would be. And my boss, who's reasonably awesome in all the right ways, said, your job right now is father, not employee. So go do what you got to do. And let's keep in touch and swing back in when you're ready. And I think 2 or 3 days went by before I even picked up the phone and had to call again. It was just, he got better. I came back into work and no one batted an eye. And
Right.
it's not hard, but I think a lot of people don't have that experience and it becomes hard for them.
Outside of your own experiences, right, which are wonderfully varied and provide a lot of different insights, but you're also like a data guy. You want to gather the real information so that we can actually understand and diagnose, if that is the way that we need to move forward, any sort of problem. So you do that through something called the Social Impact Staff Retention Project. Tell us a bit about that.
After 25 years, even after 5 years, I think you come to some realizations intuitively based on what you've experienced, what you see. But, and I'll tell the story as quickly as I can, the colleague that I do that work with, her name is Michelle Flores Bryn. If anyone has heard of me or my work, they've definitely heard of Michelle. She just happens to be here in Texas. And back in 2022, we co-led a session for the Houston Association of Fundraising Professionals. It was that moment in time where, like, self-care and self-practices, we were encouraged and openly doing those things where budgets weren't getting pulled back. We weren't scrubbing DEI language from the websites and things like that. So we led this session, and it's supposed to be a tiny little session. And then the event convener said there too many people want to come, so we're going to put you in the big room.
Ooh, good
And
problem.
it was a good problem to have, and it was a
Yeah.
big vent fest. I think we had a whole presentation with a PowerPoint and everything planned, and we maybe got through like 10 minutes of that before hands started going up, and people were just sharing with us things that we had experienced ourselves, we had heard. We had just spent the last, most of us, 2.5 years locked in a room with a Zoom screen, and we weren't
Right.
out in front of people. And then Michelle and I went out to the parking lot after that and said, that was a lot, and we hope that should be the beginning of the conversation, not the end. And
Yeah.
fast forward to fall 2023, we kicked off the SISR, Social Impact Staff Retention Project, which is an annual fall sent, meaning we send it out in the fall, survey of asking people essentially, are you looking for a new job now or over the next year, or are you not? And then some of the underlying questions below that. And we've done this now 3 going into 4 years. This fall, we'll kick off the 2027 survey. And we found some very consistent things in doing it, which is yay for the data, but nay for what it's telling us
Yeah.
about the experience of nonprofiteers in the United States in particular. It's a big field, and we are focusing specifically on people who work with and for US nonprofits, just because so we can focus. One of the things that Michelle and I find repeatedly in this research, and I do have to credit her with this, because when really the seed idea for this project was mine, and I wanted to start with, why are people leaving? And Michelle's brilliance, she said, not 100% of people are leaving. We know the number's probably not great, but there's probably a gaggle of people who are happy in their jobs and want
Yeah.
to stay in their jobs. And we should ask those people why they want to stay in their jobs. And no surprise to any one of us who's been on a team or managed people before, the ability to flex in your work. And I think one of the clean ways we describe that is the ability to work hybrid or remote when life happens.
Yes.
That, as we look over the average of all the years we've done this research, the ability to flex when necessary is one of the top reasons, if not the top reason, why people stay. And what's funny too is that when we look at the reasons why people leave, I think in this industry we think, oh, they're not getting paid enough. And we sort of drag that standing line through the mud. And no, nonprofits writ large are not paying corporate level salaries. But all things considered equal, even if you pay someone 30% more than they were making, if the other crap is still crappy, the pay is only going to go so far. But if you look on the happiness side, the things that have very low hard costs to them, but I think for a lot of bosses, it's kind of an emotional stretch that they have to do. If you're used to seeing people in the office, and if you can't see them in the office, my God, how do I know they're actually getting their work done? Because God forbid we just look at the tasks and the
Yeah.
work that are
The
happening.
outcomes.
Um, I think there are a billion and one bad stories that people will tell you on the show that I could tell myself, and I just think we have to remember that there are people out there who will lean into things like the data say. The data say if someone needs life to flex, allow them to flex as long as the work is getting done.
Stories like that showcase how one seemingly small but big to you act of kindness or understanding made such an impact. To understand that, like, if you are, let's say, an executive director at a nonprofit that's having a turnover problem, it doesn't necessarily mean you've got to go rethink your entire strategy. You've got to get raises approved by the board. You know what I mean? Like, there are those things that you can do to make a meaningful impact, and things like the report that you put together is what brings that to the attention of the people that need to know that. And I actually love, you shared with me that you've got something exciting coming up that's going to be, it was eventually, or at some point it was a book, but then you wanted it to be more flexible and kind of like living and breathing. That's going to let other people chime in regularly with their opinions. So tell us about that, because I have a feeling people listening to this podcast would want to be a part of it.
Yeah, again, all the best things in the world come with or through my wife. And back around the late 2025 holiday season, I had a book that I wrote a few years back in 2022, 23. And it was a short book, maybe 90 pages, very field guide-esque. You could kind of pick it up, put it down when you need to. And November, December this past year, I started thinking what book number two would look like. And the working title of that was going to be something like the Nonprofiteer's Field Guide for Staying. And staying was going to be in parenthesis, like a budget item, like it
Uh-huh.
could be a debit or a credit. And staying is sometimes not always the most healthy thing for a nonprofiteer to do.
Right.
And then I was chatting maybe about 4 to 6 weeks ago with my wife, and she was like, "Another book, huh?" She's like, once you put the book out, the book is out. And
Yeah.
if you want to change, edit, update it, there's got to be like second edition or something like that. She's like, "Is there a magazine out there or something more periodical in nature?" I said, "Oh, I guess I'm creating a magazine." And so last month or so, I've been working on what this would look like, because the benefit of that is content. In our scissor data, we find that big reasons for saying or going are always staying the same, but there's always more interesting stories and depth that we can go. So I'm at the early stages of this. I don't know if it's going to be twice a year, quarterly,
Right.
but the goal will be a lot of my own experiences and my own essays, but also um, sections of that which will, sort of like a podcast, be sort of a written version of getting to know nonprofit people who are doing really great work.
What is the name? Does it have a name yet so we can keep an eye out?
It does.
Is it a
And
trade
it
secret?
no, it's not really a secret. I should
Okay.
actually probably start talking about this. And
Yeah.
you can also go to just
Yep.
dearnonprofiteer.com.
Okay.
It's Dear Nonprofiteer.
I love that. All right.
Yeah,
Simple. And you had mentioned, took a minute to trademark that name, so let's use it as much as we can, yes?
I'm using it. And the subtitle of the book is going to be the same as this, and it's going to be Love Letters to the People Keeping Humanity Afloat.
Oh, so good. So good. Yes. See, this is the wordsmith that I'm talking about. People, go follow Evan on LinkedIn if you want real good advice, but also just like somebody that's going to make you feel good, because you should, right? That is the point, is that the people doing nonprofit work have their heads down, doing hard work because they love the mission, the world, their community, etc. We need to love them, and we do. So if you haven't already, go follow Evan on LinkedIn. Go to dearnonprofiteer.com and sign up for all the exciting things that are coming out. And thank you so much for being here today. This is your weekly reminder to hydrate and practice self-care. And as Evan and I discussed, maybe do some stretches, because, when you get into your 40s like we are, that's also important. But take care of yourself, dear friends. And Evan, thank you again for being here. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Good to talk.
You too. Bye, everyone.